Hi, everybody. It's Steve Pemberton, the Chief Human Resources Officer at Workhuman, and today I'm pleased to welcome Jacqui Wildgoose to the show. Jacqui, we want to learn a little bit more about that last name. We'll get to that here in a moment. But Jacqui is a qualified chartered physiotherapist based in Ireland. Jacqui, thanks for joining us. How are you?
I'm great, thank you. Yes, the name, the name
Yes.
is very much a talking point with my patients.
I would imagine.
It's my married name, so it's my husband's surname. And I believe it dates back to 16th century Ireland, so there's an Irish connection there. My husband's English, so yeah.
Wow. Well, it's a really, really cool name, by the way. So you can imagine the history of
Thank
it.
you.
Right? Can you imagine being in the place where they had that conversation,
Yes.
get to choose a name and go, Wildgoose, yes, that's the name.
I liked it so much that I decided to call my clinic name after it. So hence Wildgoose Wellness.
What a great idea. Well, we're going to talk about that here in a little bit. Tell me a little bit about how things are going for you over in Ireland. How are you? How's the family, particularly in light of COVID-19?
Well, it's going quite well considering. We've had about 25,000 cases here. Unfortunately, we've had 1,664 deaths. And in the last day, there has been 5 new cases. But our government responded very, very quickly when the virus broke, and they've done a pretty good job. So our health service have stood up really, really well.
Well, tell me a little bit about what brought you to a career in physiotherapy. And as I understand it, you were just about to launch a practice when the pandemic began. So I cannot imagine how difficult that must have been.
Yeah, it's been very strange and very odd. I was supposed to launch my practice on the 1st of April, April Fool's Day. And basically I haven't been able to launch it physically. So we have now opened kind of a virtual clinic. So I see a lot of my patients via telehealth or telemedicine, as it's known. So I use a special encrypted software, Clinico software, where I can see my patients and it's encrypted, so it's safe. And then basically it's quite easy to do that actually. So if you get a good subjective history, it's quite easy to be able to see a patient via this way. And then if they need any exercise or any rehab, then I have another kind of another special software, PhysiTrack, and I send out tailored kind of exercises. They're videos of me or of a video. It talks the patient through it and it tracks their progression, so I can see if the patient has done their exercises or not. And we can see how they progress. But it works really well, and I've had some really good feedback from it.
And so, as you're thinking about the future here, and I'm just generally wondering about this, scale and the possibility of scale. So, being forced into telehealth, basically, as you have you been thinking about ways that you might be able to expand your reach, given that some of this you now know you can do virtually?
Yeah, just to take you back, I worked in London for 15 years prior to moving back to Ireland, and I worked for a big private health company there. And I used to provide a triage service, but it was over the phone. So it's the same thing. You were diagnosing and giving treatment over the phone. So I suppose going to video is an awful lot easier. But I definitely see that this is going to be kind of the way going forward. A lot of the GPs here, a lot of the doctors, we're using telehealth straight away. So I see a big area within the corporate world. So a lot of companies now have had to move the way that they've worked. A lot of people are working from home. Maybe their situation or where they're sitting might not be appropriate, or they may need some kind of intervention or help if they're sitting for long periods of time. So being able to then get some kind of expert advice to be able to help with that. So yeah, the corporate world, I definitely see that happening. And hopefully we don't see a second wave of this, but we don't know how long this is going to go on for. So I think that this is going to be the way it's going to be going forward. I think kind of virtual clinics mixed with the hands-on. I think that's probably the way it's going to go going forward.
And do you see on the consumer side, the patient side specifically, do you think that there'll be a greater interest in physiotherapy as a result of what's been unfolding?
As a chartered physiotherapist, I would have worked, or I would have trained within musculoskeletal. So, people that have broken bones or have pulled a muscle, whatever. But we're also trained within kind of neurology and respiratory. So I kind of have a good insight into how to train somebody, possibly somebody that's had COVID and is now recovering, and to be able to help with their breathing, and to be able to help rehab them then to kind of to become stronger.
That's a great point, Jacqui. One of the things that we're realizing about COVID-19 is the recovery specifically,
Yes.
and the extraordinary damage that it is doing. I think sometimes we see these videos of people who've left the hospital and, they have been saved in essence, but it doesn't mean that they're well, and that the process, it's not like the flu where within a week, maybe you feel kind of back to normal. This is not that. So have you begun treating?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's quite phenomenal the amount of muscle that you can lose after being kind of laid down or on a ventilator for X amount of time. I think after listening to a lot of podcasts, because I have been nerding up on it a lot in the last couple of weeks, and listening to other clinicians treating, is kind of the message was, when these people come home or need to rehab, that it's a very slow and steady process. A lot of people think that they can just get straight back out and start kind of, exercising like the way they did before. It's slow and steady is the word that we have been told. So, yeah, so it's good to kind of be able to use that expertise definitely in that field.
And tell me how you're feeling about the business. I mean, we talked earlier about it starting in a really difficult time. How do you feel about the long-term future of the business?
It's the landscape has changed dramatically. I'm unsure how we go back. It's a new normal. All these phrases that you've heard just recently. Yeah. Going back into clinic and seeing patients. I'm not sure how that's going to work. We have been given time frames to be able to see a patient. You're allowed kind of a 15-minute kind of close contact amount of time, which is not a huge amount of time to give a hands-on kind of treatment. And hence, to a certain degree, I think the telehealth helps a little bit more, because you've got the freedom to be able to kind of have more time with that patient. And plus you're not speaking through a mask as such, because we have to have full PPE when we're when we have a patient in the clinic. So I don't know as yet. I haven't gone physically back in. I'm kind of waiting and watching to see. Some of my friends and colleagues have opened up their clinics, and then a lot haven't. And they're waiting to see how it goes. So yeah, I'm unsure to say at this present time. And my clinic is within a GP practice, so I'm kind of waiting for kind of directives and feedbacks from the GPs.
Yeah, hopefully the phasing recommendations that's come from the HSE will be helpful but you can see by the time it gets to phase 5, that's the beginning of August. Yeah, it's quite a ways away. Very incremental, very slow process. So
it is. It is, and people have mixed emotions about it. Monday is our second phase, where they're easing up on some of the restrictions. But we'll see. We're watching the numbers. 5 new cases today. So we're kind of really watching those numbers and seeing, and that'll kind of go by the science to give us a kind of feedback of when it's right for us to kind of to open and see people face to face. I think another aspect is to do some domiciliary visits, so going into people's houses as such. And again, you're protected as such, and that might be the next step. And then before we kind of open up completely.
Yeah. Well, Jacqui, we are rooting for you both because of the importance of what you do in the health care space, and also as a small business owner, as well. I'm hopeful that the next time that we'll talk, it will be something about how I survived the business how I survived the pandemic as a small business. That's going to be part of the Wildgoose family story for a long time to come.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. But so far so good. I can't complain. I'm here with my family. I have 2 small children, and we're negotiating homeschooling as well. But yeah. It's all good. It's all good.
Well, Jacqui, thank you so much for joining us. We're rooting for you.
No problem. Thanks a million. See you, Steve.
Bye-bye.
Okay.